Hello, everybody. I am doing this real life astrology video. It's not a fun time in my life right now. And I'm reflecting on the astrology and I'm thinking, you know what? Maybe this is something that is worth sharing with you guys so that you can, connect to the astrology and see how these cycles play out in your life. I am in particular focusing on the Saturn moon cycle, transiting Saturn, making a difficult aspects to your natal moon. And that will happen approximately every 7 years, where Saturn will either be conjunct your moon, square your moon, or opposite your moon. That's just the Saturn cycle. We started the conjunction. About 7 years later, we have the opening square. About 7 years after that, we have the opposition. And about 7 years after that, the closing square. And about 7 years after that, we go back to the conjunction. And Saturn is the planet of limitation. It is the planet of maturity, reality. It is the planet that can say no to something. It can say, not now. It forces you to look at whatever that planetary energy is in your life and recognize what it is about that planetary energy in your life that requires repair, that requires some fixing, some addressing. And Saturn can eventually lead to mastery. It can eventually lead to authority and discipline and commitment. But Saturn does tend to create that feeling of crushing weight on our chest or on our back while we're climbing up the mountain and dealing with Saturn's lessons. Okay, that's just the way it is. And Saturn, when it is making a difficult aspect to your moon by transit, what is the moon? The moon in astrology is our reigning need. It is our deepest need and desire, what we crave, an instinctual need that we have that needs to be honored. And beyond that, that's the psychological astrology part of the moon. The moon does rule the physical body. It is a significator of the physical body in a birth chart. The moon also connects to home and family dynamics, nurturing. If you are a woman and you are a mother, the moon connects to how you mother. It connects to your mothering experience with your own mother. So the moon has a lot to say in our birth chart. And when Saturn is making a difficult link to the moon, we have themes of emotional malnourishment that come up for us to assess, to repair. It is a time where we're being called to nurture ourselves in a very deep way because we might not be feeling the emotional sustenance from out there, from other people, from the rest of the world. It is one of those transits where we're reminded that we must build our home within ourselves. And so it can be a difficult time. Saturn, in a hard aspect to the moon, can absolutely bring some tears, some grief, a little bout of depression. Just, it's not always a fun transit. And so I thought I would do this real life astrology video to show you what is happening in my life right now as transiting Saturn is square my moon. And this story involves me, my family, me as a mother, me and my dog. My dog is going through it right now. This is a bit of a story. So if you're interested, stick around, get comfy, and I'm going to take you on a tour of some real life astrology in Maria's world. But before I do that, a big warm welcome for those of you who happen to be new here, stumbling on my channel. My name is Maria DeSimone, and I am a professional astrologer. You can find out more about me and my work at insightfulastrology.com, where I have an entire school and I offer astrology classes from the beginner's level all the way through advanced. And I do offer personal consultations, coaching packages. Your 2025 special year ahead video horoscopes are available now for purchase on my website. So I hope you decide to check that out. If you are an intermediate intermediate student of astrology who already understands predictive astrology to the level of transit analysis, then you might be interested in my upcoming class on secondary progressions. This is where we track the internal changes, the readiness that you have to experience something. And when your secondary progress chart is triggered by aspect to your natal chart, and sometimes by transits, the events will pop. They will manifest in your life. So, in this class, we're going to explore the secondary progressed chart. We're going to explore how to work with progressions, all of the ins and outs, the progressive lunation cycle, orbs, rules, my tips and tricks, and how I use secondary progressions with transits in my predictive work. So if this class sounds like something that interests you, go to insightfulastrology.com. Make sure you register before November 25th so that you save $55 off of the tuition. That's the early bird tuition rate, saves you $55. Class begins in December on Saturdays at 11 a.m. They're all recorded. So if you can't attend live, don't worry. And we use your birth charts in the homework assignments, in the lesson plans. It brings the astrology to life in the most amazing way. And so I hope you consider joining my astrology family. Now, this video, if I have time, I'm going to show you my progress chart at the end because it is pretty reflective. So let me tell you a little bit about what's going on in my life and what is prompting the bigger Saturn Moon lesson. Some of you may know that I have a mini poodle, an apricot mini poodle. Her name is Maple. She will be 10 years old in February. And I got this dog when my children were younger. And, dogs make great therapy. They really do. When you're going through a difficult time, your little furry companions can really help you through. And so my daughter was going through a bit of a rough patch, and I was at that time against having a dog, big time. I didn't want a dog. I am against having to take care of anything because when you look at my birth chart, you're going to see that both of my malefics, Saturn and Mars, are in Cancer. Mars is the ruler of my chart. And Saturn in Cancer is, some karma when it comes to nurturing. And I also have a Sagittarius moon. So I value my freedom. I value my ability to get up and go when I please. And all of that is not very compatible with mothering and nurturing and having to take care of other living beings. But for the sake of my daughter back in the day, I said, all right, let me get this dog. And so I surprised my son and my daughter. We got this dog, we did the research and we chose that breed because of my daughter's allergies and some other, requirements that I had for my household. And Maple came home with us later on in 2015. She was born in February. I believe we took her home in May, maybe June. I'm forgetting at the moment. And I fell in love. That's my baby. It was rough. I definitely am not good at training dogs or animals, and it was a difficult adjustment. And I literally went through a secondary postpartum depression getting used to Maple in my home. And so now I'm obviously very used to her, very attached to her. My daughter got married in May. She moved out. Maple stayed here. And Maple is, she sleeps with me. She's my dog. She's my cuddle buddy, my little personal assistant all day long. And I love the dog. But now she's been going through some health issues. And it's getting a bit stressful in my house. It's getting very difficult actually for me to deal with this because I am being brought back to a time from my past when I had to take care of my children and I didn't have a lot of physical help. I raised them as a single mother and my family dynamic, my mother was very sick and could never really help me physically with the kids. My sister lived in Florida for 9 years when I was raising my kids, and so she was not available to help. I didn't have physical help. And so it was really wearing and trying on me. Excuse me. And so, I have to say, motherhood for me wasn't fun. And I'm just keeping it real here. I wanted children very much. My life didn't turn out the way that I thought it was going to. I thought I was going to have my children and have a solid family unit. That wasn't the case. I consciously never signed up for single motherhood, but that's what happened. And I had to make the best of it. I had to build my career while raising my children, and it was incredibly difficult, very stressful. And I am glad those years are behind me, to be quite frank. I am glad that, I did what I had to do. I did the best I could. I love my children. I raised my children, but now they're adults and I have my freedom. I have my ability to live my life and not feel the constant pressure of having to take care of my children because they're adults now. But I still have my dog, Maple. And taking care of a dog is not the same as taking care of a human. But when an animal is sick, whoa, it becomes a big deal. So in October, she had a surgery to fix something on her ear. She had an injury to her ear that was becoming, initially it happened with the groomer nicking her, and then something happened with blood vessels and, her veins, and it was bleeding and it kept growing. And so I had to have surgery to cauterize it and fix it. So she had that surgical procedure. I want to say it was the middle of October. All was well, everything was fine, and she's still healing from that. But now we have another complication. So today's the 10th. So this is Sunday. So almost a week ago. So last Monday night, I had my godson over, Colin, and we were having pizza. We were going to have a movie night. We were having a really, really nice time. And we filmed a couple of astrology videos for his Instagram channel because he's also an astrologer. And all of a sudden, my dog was sitting with us on the dining room. I know this sounds weird, but my dogs sit at the dining room table with us. They like to be there. There are two dogs, my son's dog and my dog. And so Pepper, my son's dog, was actually on the floor. She was just chilling on the floor. But Maple was sitting with us on chairs, and I have upholstered chairs. And I put three chairs together to make sure that, she's okay and she's safe. And all of a sudden, she jumped from one chair to the next really quick out of nowhere. And then Colin goes underneath the table, and I'm like, why is he underneath the table? And then I realized that Maple's bleeding. And I'm like, oh my gosh, she's bleeding like crazy. What happened? And then I said, Colin, why are you underneath the table? And he said, I think I see a nail. And I wasn't processing what he was talking about, but then he comes up and he has Maple's entire toenail in his hand. And Maple's bleeding profusely. It was like a bloodbath in my house, and it happened so fast. And so, it was pretty chaotic. My son was getting the car ready. He was going to drive us to the hospital. Colin's running around cleaning blood up. My daughter-in-law was helping uh, control the blood on Maple's paw while I was getting everything ready to go. And, thank God I wasn't alone. We get to the emergency room, and her entire toenail was gone. They, treated it, put her in a cast. The next day I took her to the vet, and he removed the cast. She's on antibiotics, treatment, all that. Okay, fine. I thought she was on the mend. Well, the e-collar. You're supposed to put an e-collar on a dog to limit them, licking their wounds and all that. She was a wreck when I initially put the e-collar on her. Her blood pressure was through the roof. They had a hard time like stopping the bleeding because she was so anxious. So they gave her methadone. It was crazy. And the e-collar is giving her a lot of anxiety, and she's crying with it on. And me listening to her with that e-collar took me back to when my kids were babies and they would cry and cry, and I couldn't stop the crying. I did not handle that too well as a mother. I don't know. You tell me, as mothers, maybe you're better at this than me. It was very, very hard on me. And I can't handle it. Like, it makes my skin crawl. I cannot handle it. It stresses me out. So I was trying to do whatever I could to make sure that she wouldn't cry. So I canceled my week, canceled all my social engagements, and I said, I'm just going to stay home with her and watch her, and we'll keep her on the pain medication. So she'll be asleep for most of the week and she'll limit the licking. Sure enough, it seemed to be getting better, but on Saturday, I go and take a shower and get ready to teach my class. And I thought she was fine. I come downstairs and she's licking the paw like crazy, and it was bleeding. So I had to take her to the vet. find out it's infected. So now it's a big deal, a big injury. And it's going to take twice as long to heal. Tomorrow, I have to take her to the vet. He cast it again and put this whole treatment on her paw. And tomorrow, when the cast comes off, whether or not I like it, that e-collar is probably going on, and I'm going to have to deal with it, and it's going to suck. I am not happy right now. I am in a very, very sad place in my life right now because of what's going on at home. And I'm going to show you the charts and the astrology in a minute. This is all Saturn moon related. So, what I've been dealing with is a combination of sadness at having to take care of Maple and deal with this. My daughter isn't home. She's, married, lives somewhere else, and she's actually in Tennessee right now, so she's not even home in the state. My son is helping me as much as he can, but, they have their lives. It's, my responsibility. I am just completely depressed about the fact that I have to take care of this dog and I have to deal with her being uncomfortable and I have to cancel my life and, cater to what she needs right now. And I know it's temporary, but it's depressing me. It's really making me very sad. And it's taking me back to the time when I was a single mom and all the pressure was on me. And it's so interesting that this is what my Saturn moon transit has turned into. And so I'm going to show you because Saturn's also opposite my dog's moon and it's conjunct her Venus. And you're going to see how literal the astrology is in a minute. I'm going to, first, I'm going to show you Maple's chart. Now, I don't have an exact birth time for her. So keep in mind that this is my rectified chart that I'm using for her because I do think, she has a lot of Virgo tendencies. And I know she has a Virgo moon no matter what. But given the Saturn transit and the degree that Saturn is right now with this injury, I do believe that I'm pretty close with her birth time. So transiting Saturn is here in Pisces, and it's going to station direct on the 15th at about 12 degrees, 51 minutes of Pisces. It is pretty much exactly conjunct her Venus. Now, what is super interesting is that Pisces in medical astrology rules the feet. And her injury, very specifically, was a broken toenail, complete break, gone. And then it got infected. How literal is that for transiting Saturn in Pisces, conjunct her Venus in Pisces to be? Very, very literal, I have to say. And so Saturn conjunct Venus, the experience that she's having is, she's not a happy camper. She is, actually medicated as much as possible. Like now it's not pain medication anymore. It's Benadryl. The vet, has her on Benadryl instead and the antibiotics and, all of that's going on. And she's not feeling happy. But in addition to that, she's got Saturn opposite her moon in Virgo. So she is dealing with circumstances beyond her control, a health issue that is, affecting her physical body. The moon rules the physical body. And it is absolutely sad for Maple. She's not happy right now, but she's going to get through it. But it is also sad for me. So here is my chart, and I'm going to put this wheel up to make it a little easier for you. And I am experiencing a couple of transits that are very reflective of this right now. So the south node of the moon, just so you know, is transiting and making a conjunction to my Pluto in my sixth house. And the sixth house rules our pets, our small pets. So the south node conjunct Pluto, I think is really reflective of the fact that I'm dealing with, some problems that Maple's having. She's going to live. She'll get through them. I'm not worried that she's going to die or anything from this, but it's going to be a long bit of a, recovery now. I'm also having what's known as a Chiron return. Chiron is close to the degree that it was at my natal chart. And that happens for all of us between 50 and 51 years old. And the Chiron return brings up all of the wounds from your past. They all come up to haunt you. And you basically have to work through them. You're confronted with them. And I am being confronted. I have to say, there's something to this. I'm not a big Chiron person in general, but I am really noticing and observing objectively this Chiron return period, bringing up all sorts of wounds that I thought were dealt with. And most recently, right now, it's the wounds of, okay, me being a mother and mothering and me being the nurturer and the limitations and the stress and the difficulty that I have connected to that. So, of course, that goes back to my natal makeup. I have Saturn and Mars in Cancer. I am very good at mothering, but to be quite honest, I hate nurturing anyone or anything. And that is the honest truth. And that's a reflection of having Saturn and Mars in Cancer. I hate it. It makes me feel suffocated. I don't like taking care of anyone. And yet, I have been put in situations all my life where I have to take care of people. I have to be the one who is proactively nurturing them. So I've learned to master this and to be really good at it, even though I hate it. It is my, like, the bane of my existence. And so that's just reality. And that comes from my own childhood wounds and emotional malnourishment that I've experienced. You know, Saturn in Cancer has a similarity to a hard Saturn moon aspect in the birth chart. So, transiting Saturn now is here in Pisces in my 12th house, bringing up all the hidden stuff, sorrows, and, what I'm going through. And it's conjunct my Jupiter, but that's not what I'm going to focus on right now. What I'm going to focus on right now is that it is square my moon in the eighth house. So as it stations direct on the 15th, it's triggering the square to my moon in the eighth house, which is trauma, crisis. The moon rules my fourth house, which is home and family. And this is all about my mothering wounds, my emotional malnourishment wounds, how what I need to be nurtured, what I need, Moon in Sagittarius, my freedom, is being blocked very directly right now because I am having a karmic obligation and responsibility to nurture my dog. Isn't that so literal? And it's super interesting because this has brought up so much sadness in me over the past week or so. Uh, it's gone deeper than just, me and Maple and what's going on in my house with Maple. It's extended to me recognizing that my family life, there are inherent limitations now in my family dynamic because my family is changing. My daughter is married now. She is no longer in the household. She's, getting ready to start her own life, her own family. And my son will be, getting married at some point. He's, he lives with my future daughter-in-law here in my house right now. But there are, dynamics happening in my family with my children that I can't control, and I have to accept them. And I'm not going to get into the details of what's happening, but it's making me sad. And I am grieving the family life that I was fighting so hard to have all of my life, but I could never get. It just never happened. And I'm very deeply grieving that with this Saturn moon transit that's happening right now. And Maple's illness has triggered that in a big way. So I think it's just super interesting. I wanted to share this with you because if you are going through a hard Saturn moon transit yourself right now, or you will be, and every one of you will go through this every 7 years or so when Saturn's making an aspect, a hard aspect to your moon, it is to teach us to nourish ourselves and to remind us that we have to have our own container in order and do what we need to do to feel sustained, to feel okay in our own skin, to feel calm and balanced and at peace. And that's going to be tested when Saturn is in a hard aspect to the moon. It can cause some tears. And yesterday I was crying. I'll be very honest. I was crying on the phone with my sister yesterday, and I said, I think I'm going to cancel Christmas. And it makes me really sad to have to say that. But, I'm used to being the one, I've become the person in my family who does Christmas Eve. I have a big family. And the situation with my dog now, as she's getting older with so many people that she's not used to having around, I'm really worried that she's going to, have another injury or something else is going to happen. And it's causing me so much stress and anxiety that it's not worth me hosting Christmas Eve dinner right now. So I called my Zia this morning. I called my sister yesterday, and everybody in my family is super understanding. But, for me, this is a grief moment because Christmas Eve is going to look very different this year in my family and in my household. And I don't know what it's going to look like just yet, but it's probably just going to be me and my kids, or, an abbreviated version of, maybe me and my kids and my siblings and their kids and my dad, but that's it, not the extended family. But I might not even do that much. It really depends on how Maple's doing and how I'm feeling, because right now I kind of don't have the Christmas spirit in me. Um, and so that's connected to my Saturn moon transit right now. And it's just something I have to go through. It's just something that I have to go through. And it will pass, of course. I'm not paralyzed and devastated in any way. This is a situation in my life where things are not so bright right now, and I have to move through it, and I will. But it is not the same Saturn moon transit that occurred back in 2016 when Saturn was conjunct my moon and my mom passed away. That was real grief and tears, literally losing my mom. What's happening now is this grief connected to mothering and connected to me trying to nurture myself and feeling blocked and not being able to get what I want from my family in the way that I want it. And my family life does not look the way that I dreamed it would look. It, looks different. And you have to accept these things because children grow and they have their own lives, and you cannot force relationships to continue the same way that they did 10, 15 years ago. Everything changes. And this is part of my Saturn moon transit. So let me know in the comments if you've had similar experiences during your Saturn moon transits. And I hope this rather long-winded video was helpful to explain some real life astrology and have you, understand what happens during a Saturn moon transit. I did want to try to bring up my progressed chart to show you that I have my secondary progressed moon right now in the sixth house. So, all right, good. It let me do that. So the sixth house, again, small animals, our pets. And what is interesting, if you want to study the secondary progressed chart, is that the house that the secondary progressed moon is moving through becomes a very big deal in your life. And you can see here that the moon is getting ready to leave. So in a few months, it will leave. I think it's March, my sixth house. But I do think it's pretty interesting how this progressed moon in the sixth house, one of the situations that's being brought up right now is, Maple is having something going on with her health. And I have to deal with that. I'm also dealing with work stuff and changes with the female staff members that I have who take care of my website. I have one web person who is going to be retiring in the next year, and I have a new person taking over that. And I know that has nothing to do with this video, but I just wanted to bring up that the secondary progressed moon is also in my sixth house, and, the whole maple doggy stuff going on. All right, guys, I'm going to stop the video here because, I could just keep babbling and talking, and I don't want to do that. And it is time for me to go check on my baby, and I will see you soon. Send Maple lots of healing prayers and love, and I will talk to you later. Bye.